A lot of men don't realize this, but sometimes silence is not rejection, it's protection. Women don't always ignore men because they don't like them. In fact, the man they ignore the most is often the man who matters the most. This behavior looks confusing, even cruel, but it's rooted in emotional self-preservation, social conditioning, and fear of vulnerability. When a woman feels too much, she doesn't always move closer. Sometimes she steps back, and if you don't understand why, you'll misread interest as indifference and lose something that was never truly absent. Women are taught from a very young age that emotional mistakes are expensive. A man can like someone, get rejected, and society shrugs it off. A woman likes someone, gets hurt, and suddenly it's her fault for being too emotional, too hopeful, or too available. So when a woman starts liking a man deeply, her first instinct is not to express it, but to protect herself from the potential cost of that feeling. Emotional safety becomes more important than emotional excitement, and that's where ignoring begins. When a woman feels drawn to a man, she subconsciously asks one question before anything else: is this safe for my heart? If the answer is unclear, she doesn't lean in. She pulls away. Ignoring is not disinterest, it's hesitation mixed with fear. She's watching how consistent he is, how emotionally regulated he is, how he handles uncertainty. If a man seems unpredictable, inconsistent, or unclear about his intentions, her attraction doesn't disappear, but her expression of it does. Many women have learned that liking a man too openly puts them at a disadvantage. They've seen or experienced situations where showing interest led to being taken for granted. So instead of risking that, they choose emotional restraint. Ignoring becomes a way to regain control. When she ignores, she feels less exposed. She feels like she's protecting her dignity, even if internally she's thinking about him constantly. There's also the fear of disappointment. When a woman likes someone, she doesn't just like him casually. She imagines outcomes. She imagines emotional investment, and that makes the possibility of loss feel heavier. Ignoring becomes a way to slow down her own emotions. If she creates distance, she can convince herself she's not that invested, even when she is. It's a self-regulation strategy, not a rejection. Another layer is that women are highly sensitive to emotional signals. If a man gives mixed signals, even unintentionally, a woman may respond by withdrawing completely. Not because she doesn't care, but because caring without clarity feels unsafe. Ignoring is her way of saying, I need stability before I allow myself to feel more. She's not trying to manipulate, she's trying to avoid emotional chaos. Sometimes women ignore men they like because they sense that the man is not emotionally ready. She might feel the chemistry, the attraction, the connection, but if she senses emotional immaturity, avoidance, or lack of direction, she pulls back. Liking someone who can't meet you emotionally is dangerous. Ignoring becomes a boundary, even if it's a painful one. There's also pride involved. A woman who values herself deeply will not chase a man even if she likes him. She wants to be chosen freely, not tolerated reluctantly, so she steps back to see if he will step forward. If he doesn't, she protects her self-respect by staying distant rather than overextending herself emotionally. In many cases, ignoring is not coldness, it's restraint. It's the internal battle between desire and self-protection. The stronger the feeling, the stronger the defense mechanism. That's why the woman who truly doesn't care will be casual and relaxed, while the woman who cares deeply may appear distant, guarded, and emotionally unavailable, even while feeling the exact opposite inside. When a woman starts liking a man, she doesn't just feel attraction, she feels exposure. Liking someone shifts her from a position of emotional control into a position of emotional risk. Suddenly, her reactions matter more, his words carry weight, his absence is louder. And that loss of emotional neutrality is uncomfortable. Vulnerability is not romantic in the moment, it's unsettling. So instead of leaning into that vulnerability, many women instinctively pull back from it. Liking a man means giving him potential power over her emotions. Even if he hasn't done anything wrong, the mere fact that he could hurt her changes the psychological dynamic. For many women, especially those who are self-aware or emotionally experienced, this feels dangerous. Ignoring becomes a way to minimize that power imbalance. If she doesn't engage, she doesn't feel as exposed. If she doesn't respond, she doesn't feel as emotionally dependent. There is also the fear of being seen too clearly. When a woman likes someone, she worries about being read, about her interest becoming obvious. Once a man knows he's desired, the dynamic shifts. He may relax, pull back, or stop trying. Many women have learned that attraction expressed too early can reduce effort from the other side. So instead of revealing her interest, she hides it behind distance. Ignoring becomes camouflage for desire. Another psychological layer is self-image. Women are socially conditioned to value composure and emotional discipline. A woman who likes too openly risks being labeled desperate or needy, even when she isn't. That judgment doesn't just come from men, it comes from society and from other women. So she polices her own behavior. Ignoring is not natural coldness, it's learned restraint. It's a way to maintain dignity while feeling something deeply inside. When a woman likes a man, she also starts questioning herself. Am I reading this right? Is he genuinely interested or just enjoying attention? Is this safe or am I projecting? These questions create hesitation. Ignoring buys her time to analyze, to observe, to emotionally audit the situation without revealing her position. Silence becomes a buffer zone where she can think without committing. There is also a fear of rejection that works differently for women. Rejection for men is often external and momentary. For women, it can feel internal and identity shaking. Being rejected after showing interest can feel like a judgment on her worth, attractiveness, or value, so she avoids situations where rejection is possible. Ignoring is a preemptive defense. If she never shows interest, she never has to face the pain of being dismissed. Sometimes the vulnerability comes from past experiences. A woman who has been emotionally hurt before learns to associate liking someone with eventual loss. Her nervous system remembers the pain even if her mind wants to try again. So when she starts liking a man, her instincts activate warning signals. Ignoring is her way of listening to those signals. It's not about the man in front of her. It's about protecting herself from a familiar emotional pattern. There is also the internal conflict between independence and desire. Many women work hard to build emotional self-sufficiency. Liking someone threatens the equilibrium. Suddenly, she's waiting for messages, replaying conversations, imagining outcomes. That loss of inner balance can feel unsettling. Ignoring becomes an attempt to reclaim control over her own emotional state, to remind herself that she is still whole without him. In some cases, ignoring is a silent test, not of the man's persistence, but of his emotional intelligence. She wants to see whether he notices the shift, whether he responds with maturity rather than ego, whether he offers clarity instead of pressure. If he reacts with insecurity or anger, it confirms her fear that liking him would not be emotionally safe. If he responds with calm presence, it lowers her defenses and makes vulnerability feel less dangerous. Women don't always test men by moving closer. Often they test them by stepping back. Withdrawal is not absence of interest, it is a method of observation. When a woman likes a man, she wants to understand how he behaves when reassurance is removed. Does he panic? Does he become aggressive? Does he disappear? Or does he remain grounded, respectful, and consistent? Ignoring becomes a way to reveal a man's emotional structure without asking direct questions. Pursuit tells her very little. Almost any man can pursue when things are easy and energy is high. What matters more is how he responds to distance. Distance exposes emotional maturity. A man who can tolerate space without collapsing into insecurity signals stability. A man who reacts with entitlement or pressure signals emotional risk. So she pulls back not to punish, but to gather information. Many women have learned that words are unreliable, but behavior is not. A man can say he's interested, serious, or emotionally available, but his reaction to withdrawal tells the truth. If he becomes inconsistent, passive-aggressive, or suddenly cold, it reveals that his interest was conditional on constant access. Ignoring allows her to see whether his interest has depth or is fueled by convenience. There is also a subconscious desire to be chosen freely. A woman who likes a man doesn't want to feel like she convinced him. She wants to know that if she steps back, he will step forward because he genuinely wants her, not because she made it easy. Withdrawal creates a moment where choice becomes visible. If he leans in with clarity and respect, it reassures her. If he fades, she learns that her liking him would have led to imbalance. Withdrawal also protects her from over-investing too early. When emotions rise quickly, imbalance follows. By pulling back, she regulates the pace. She gives herself time to assess whether the connection is mutual or imagined. Ignoring slows the emotional momentum so she doesn't build fantasies on unstable ground. It's a way to stay rational while emotions are active. Another reason women test through withdrawal is to observe boundaries. How does he handle not getting what he wants immediately? Does he respect her silence or try to force access? Does he escalate emotionally or remain patient? These responses matter deeply because they predict future behavior. A man who cannot tolerate minor distance will struggle with major emotional challenges later. Ignoring becomes a small stress test for long-term compatibility. For many women, this behavior is not conscious strategy, it's instinct. Emotional intelligence in women often operates through sensing rather than planning. She feels the need to step back before she can step forward. The body recognizes potential danger before the mind articulates it. Ignoring is her nervous system asking for proof of safety. There is also the reality that women are often pursued by men who enjoy the chase but withdraw once emotional intimacy begins. By pulling back early, she flips the dynamic. She watches whether he maintains interest when the chase is removed. If his effort disappears, she avoids future disappointment. If it remains steady, trust begins to form. Ignoring also allows her to see whether a man can lead emotionally without control. Leadership in relationships is not about dominance, it's about emotional steadiness. When she withdraws, she's observing whether he can create connection without pressure, whether he can communicate clearly without demands, whether he can express interest without desperation. Importantly, withdrawal is not meant to manipulate, it's meant to clarify. A woman who truly doesn't care won't test at all, she simply disengages. Testing happens only when interest is present. Ignoring is the quiet space where she watches actions align with words, where she decides whether vulnerability is safe or whether distance should remain permanent at the end of the day. Understanding a woman's silence or distance is not about decoding games, it's about recognizing her need for emotional safety, self-respect, and clarity. The men she seems to ignore are often the ones she feels for most deeply. Her withdrawal is not rejection, it's a test, a shield, and a way to protect her heart while she observes how you respond. If you notice, respect, and respond with patience and consistency, you create the space for genuine connection. What looks like indifference can actually be the gateway to the deepest kind of mutual attraction.